how would that relate to something on a slightly higher scale, like it would be my desire for world peace? I mean, that would be a wonderful, wonderful thing to have in my experience, and I would like to focus on that. But
Let us give you the definition of world peace. From the non-physical perspective, world peace is certainly attainable as long as you or anyone, not even all of you, but as long as you understand what the basis of world peace must be. So we're going to give it to you here. A world where everyone is free to choose whatever thought they activate. A world where the thought that they choose to activate then is responded to freely by the forces of the universe. A place where you are so free you can choose thoughts of bondage. World peace means everybody getting to choose what they want and everyone having the potential of achieving it. Now, what most humans mean when they say, I want world peace, almost without exception, what they mean is, I want you to agree with me. That's what they think world peace is. And world peace would be you giving up what you think you need and giving me what I know I need. And when you think about the hot spots, and there are several of them around your world, those agreements aren't happening because there is a misunderstanding. There's a fighting over limited resources which truly are not limited. As man sees shortage of land and shortage of resources and shortage of money and shortage, then he squabbles over the pie instead of realizing that if he would get fixated on his desire, that the universe would deliver him the resources to make his pie. That the pie increases exponentially to the desires that are established as a result of your interacting with one another. So if by world peace you mean everybody agreeing on one thing, we say not only is that not likely, we don't even want that to happen, because that would be a backwards motion of that which is eternalness. In other words, that's like saying, well, here are all of these ideas or perspectives, let's get rid of most of them and come to agreement on one or two of them. And we say that would head you toward endedness rather than toward openness, toward an ending of experience rather than toward the continuing of the eternity that is promised and certain, you see.
I guess I just feel so bad about, I see all the pain and suffering everywhere in the world. And I know once before you said, if you see a dog at the side of the road has been hit by a car, you don't look there, you look away.
All right, well, let's talk about it in terms of what we've been talking about here today, because the fact of it is, in this environment in which you are focused, and in this environment in which you have so much information coming to you about it, so here is the world situation. There is a lot of stuff going right, and there is some stuff going wrong. In other words, it's just the fact of it. You can't deny that there are unwanted things happening in this very moment all over the planet. But you have a choice of looking at it and feeling bad, or looking at it and feeling good, or not looking at it and feeling bad, or not looking at it and feeling good. And when you decide that in either case you're going to feel good, you're going to find a way of not letting it be the responsibility of you not being aligned. Now you stay connected to source energy, and now you have a hope of doing something about some of that. In other words, do you know that when something in your environment causes powerful rockets of desires to go off within you, and you manage to stay connected to the stream of well-being, your desires are then manifested. So one who stays connected and hopes for things getting better is much more powerful than one who is irate and frustrated and revengeful that wants things to get better. In other words, tend to your emotional journey first, and then watch how much influence you begin to have in terms of the way things begin to play out.
I mean, there are a few things that come on the news that is good that's happening over in those areas, but there's not a lot to focus on and feel wonderful about.
Well, here again, this is what we said to Esther as she awakened so many times in the night. We said to her over and over again, and she heard us clearly. It was the thought that was in her mind when she woke up. There is so much more well-being than there is not well-being, that you just have to take solace in that. You just have to understand that it's not all about that feels so bad. And it doesn't mean that we're saying to you that you should embrace it and applaud it and root for it and vote for it. It means that you can't do anything about it in this red hot minute. In other words, you're not going to stop all of that. And if you're going to look at it, then you've only got one choice. If you insist on looking at something that you can't control, and if your president can't control it, we promise you can't in terms of action. So if you're going to look at something that you can't control and you're going to allow it to make you feel bad, do you realize what that means for you? That means that topic has the potential of sucking the life right out of you. And that's not a necessary thing, because the stream of well-being embraces you, wraps its arms around you, is there for you. But you've got to find your vibrational placement within it, you see. And we appreciated your words, because there are many of you who you want so much, as you taste well-being, you want so much for others to taste it. And we know it's painful for you to see someone who isn't. Esther will see someone who has no self-confidence, and she will remember not having it, and she remembers the refreshment of now having it. And she wants them to have it, but she knows she cannot give it to them. She knows that she can imagine it for them and hope it for them, you see. And there are people in all kinds of pain: emotional pain, physical pain, pain of bondage. There is loss. We understand that. But you can't get sad enough to help them get happy. And you can't get sick enough to help them be well. And you can't get poor enough to help them be prosperous. In other words, you teach through the clarity of your example. And we think what happens is, a lot of you have been happy around others who aren't, and they have scorned you. You've been prosperous around others who aren't. Jerry and Esther watched a beautiful Prevost bus. It's $1.5 million minimum bus drive through the campground. There were 4 of them. And they had a hard time getting going. They were hooking up, and they were in a caravan. And she saw so many irritated people. And campers understand that, especially in the campground that they're in. When somebody's there, you just have to wait your turn, because you can't drive around them. It's just the way it is. And she's seeing people patient, until these $1 million buses all lined up. And then she saw people impatient. And Esther said, I think there's more to it than them just being in the way. In other words, there was an aggravation that was bubbling deeper beneath the skin of these people. And so what we're getting at is, you will never be able to be, no matter how prosperous or well or happy you are, you will never be seen in the eyes of all who observe you as the perfect one in the perfect place. But it's not because you're in the wrong place. It's up to them to get you in the right place. Someone wrote a book, What You Think of Me Is None of My Business. Best title ever selected for a book. What you think of me is none of my business. But if I make what you think of me my business, then I will bring all of your distortion into my vibration. Mm-hmm. And my chance of aligning with who I really am will be set back. Mm-hmm.
So the bottom line is pretty much that I don't need to focus on that, but I need to focus on a visualizing wonderful things happening and being complete with my
You've got to go to the part of the vision. In other words, when you see someone living something awful, a rocket of desire for their resolution shoots out of you. And then if you start focusing upon their resolution, you'll start feeling better right away. And now you're part of the current that is part of the solution. Someone argued with us about this one day and talked about the role that Mothers Against Drunk Drivers have played in reducing traffic deaths. And we said, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers have not resolved any of that. In other words, that's not what is soothing that. In other words, we certainly understand why they would feel that way, and we certainly understand their resolve. But when you are pushing against something, you are adding to the very thing that you're pushing against. And it got better in spite of them. because there were so many others that had shot off rockets of desire. In other words, it's natural for things to get better. Do you get that about, if you get out of alignment in your body, do you know that it's natural for your body to get better? That's natural. It's not natural for it to get worse. It's natural for your body to get better. That's what is natural. And if something other than that is happening, it's because you're crossways of your current, period. But enough people have got crossways of their current, and enough people have collected the statistics of the illness that now whole bands of people are beginning to believe that it's natural if you get something that it's going to get worse. So now the doctors say, we've got to catch it when it's little, because it's a demon that will carry you away into a terrible place. And they're forgetting that well-being is the order of the day, you see. And so you don't need to worry about a trouble spot that will take over your planet. Your planet is the experiencer of mostly well-being, and it would be all well-being if everyone truly understood the meaning of peace as we have described it. Enough resources for all of us. We just have to define what we want, line up with it, and the universe will find a way of giving it to us. And we don't have to calculate who it will be depriving, because there is not any of that, you see.
Thank you very much.
And here's the most important part of all of this. You do not have to wait for one other person to figure that out before you can experience your own world peace.